This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And it's everybody's favorite time of the year. If you are in the media industry, the podcast game, you happen to do a show that revolves around bass fishing, breaking news is always things we look forward to. And trust me, over the last 4 years, there's been a lot of breaking news in the world of professional bass fishing. The latest, I'd heard a little bit of scuttlebutt about this for the last, probably month or so. And I'll be honest, here's how I heard about it. I'm perusing on social media a couple months ago, and I see a number of top tier BPT anglers that all over the course of 3 or 4 days started posting some of the same questions on their Instagram. They could have done it on Facebook. I'm just not a big Facebook guy, but I saw it, and it was, hey, poll questions. Which do you prefer? Every fish counts, 5-fish format. And there are, a number of guys that has all, and I said, when I start to see kind of a common theme in this, I'm like, something's got to be going on. So I make a couple calls, and, these guys, a lot of confidentiality and things they can and can't talk about, but they're like, yeah, we're just trying to figure out what our fans like, what the viewers like, how anglers talk, bass fishing anglers. I started out in the Assumption Bass Club in the 1990s. And man, if you can complain about something, just join an old bass club and you will figure out that bass fishing you will never get everybody on the same page. That's the one thing you'll figure out about bass fishing. But I love it. I love the back and forth on it. So long story short, then last week I start hearing some stuff about, there might be some potential changes to the MLF format. And over the past 3 or 4 years, the biggest thing has been the every fish counts versus the 5-fish format. And, they started out in that first year with every fish over a pound, and it was just blowing 13 inches over the gunnel, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3 at a time. So then MLF listened to the changes. They listened to the anglers. They made some changes. They did a variable weight format. Then they jumped up to the 2-pound, and they kind of changed it to where it wasn't, schooling 1-pounders. And I applaud them for that and what they did it. Well, after, I think it's 3 or 4 years of this, it is now official press release, hot off the press yesterday afternoon, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Major League Fishing, the world's largest tournament fishing organization, announced today a scoring change in the 2023 Bass Pro Tour. The extremely popular catch, weigh, and immediately release format will remain. However, scoring will change to every scoreable fish counts to scoring each angler's 5 heaviest bass per day. The every fish count format will remain for both the heavy hitters and the General Tire Team Series. But that leads us to our guest today, which is none other than one of the BTL favorites, 2-time Bassmaster Classic champ, BPT champion, and second place in the Angler of the Year this year. So the man has had some success in the every fish counts format. He'll be going back to 5. It's Jordan Lee. Joe Lee, what's up, man?
What's going on, Matt? How you doing?
No,
buddy?
thank you for joining me. I know during the off season that 8:30 is probably a little bit early for your taste, especially with a kid at home. I know every time you're at home, are you an early riser?
Yeah, man, I'm a pretty early riser. Yeah, I mean, I was before. I mean, I'm the guy that gets up around 6:30, 6:45, somewhere in there. I'm not like a 5 o'clock guy, but Baker likes to get up, pretty early. So
You
That's when we
shuffle
get
around?
up.
Do you have like a morning routine already?
Not really, man. I'm not much of a routine guy. I just like to wake up and just see what happens. You know, just see what the day brings. Drink
I
something
gotcha.
different every morning. I'm not like, don't have to get that cup of coffee. I mean, I may could get by with something else. Like, don't really eat a huge breakfast. That's just how I roll.
I gotcha. Well, I
But
was reading this
yeah.
the press
So
release that
yeah, it's
came
good to be
out,
on,
and
man.
yeah, I definitely wanted to get you on the show. You actually are part of the official MLF press release, and I'm going to read your press release. I feel like they might have fancied up some of your verbiage and
What I
word
said.
usage in the press release. I can't picture you saying, quote, I am really excited about this change, and I think it will really resonate with our hardcore tournament audience. I just
I
can't
actually
see
said
you
that.
say you did.
Well,
You did say that.
I said resonate with our hardcore fans, so they changed the
Okay.
audience. Yeah.
Okay. Uh as excited as every fish counts is, the five fish scoring just really hits home with our fans. The sport of tournament bass fishing is used to competing in that scoring format, and I believe some of the hardcore tournament anglers that may not have followed us as much as they used to will like the scoring change. And he went on to say some other things, but just kind of go through like how this came about. I mentioned in the opening
Yeah.
segment, I saw some stuff on social media about it. I mean, is that kind of where this started?
Yeah, man. So this really came about through, I guess, a group of anglers talking, um, and this change would not have happened if the anglers weren't on board with it and wanted to. The league, I don't think the league had any intent to change. There were some anglers that came to me. I started talking around to different anglers on the Bass Pro Tour, and we're just trying to figure out, you know, where we've gone in 4 years, um, and where we see us, going in the next, however long.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that came up, and anglers just really vetted through it. That was the first part of all this, and I think just getting everybody on the same page, hearing everybody's opinion, because this was not everybody wanted this change in our league. Obviously, you can't have everybody on the same page. What we try to see is what the majority of anglers felt like was maybe the uh, best thing to do. In the format change, what was the best thing to do? Do we need to completely mix it up and go to five fish, go to what we used to, and or do we need to keep it the same? What does everybody think? And everybody had a different opinion, but still, the majority of anglers felt like this was probably going to be a positive change for our league, and that's how we kind of started this. We had to obviously talk to MLF and vet through some conversations. We have an angler board at Major League Fishing, so that's something that's really cool that we can. This was not like I said, this was not just MLF doing this behind the scenes and the anglers. This was pretty much angler driven, and on things like this that we're passionate about. I know I'm passionate about it. And as a whole of a group of anglers, this was something that felt like just needed to happen.
Talk a little bit about that angler board. That's something that I'm extremely interested in. I know back in the day there was the PAA. That's no longer around. I think there's the NP. AA now as well, but that angler board is just
Yeah.
strictly made up of BPT anglers, or are there also some invitational anglers on that, or how do you get on that? Are you voted on that? What's the deal with that? I don't know how much you could actually talk about that, but I think that's something that I'm interested in.
Oh,
We had
yeah.
Brian Robinson on earlier who talked about the NFLPA and how that, kind of represented the
really?
anglers in the NFL. But how does that anglers board work?
Yeah, so I think a great guest for you would be, Wes Long, he heads it, and he's really a part of putting this together. The angler board, I have not been on. There's been a lot of different anglers on our angler board. Some guys get in, they get out because it is hard to deal with the anglers. I learned that pretty quick. I told them, I said, guys, I don't want to be on the angler board. I'll help with this. I don't want to vet through. I don't want to listen to all the, and that's how a lot of guys feel. It's hard to talk to us because number one, we all want to complain about something. That's natural. I'm sure it's like that in the NBA, NFL, whatever. I'm sure guys want to complain. That's just human nature. But, there's certain guys for the job. Chris Lane is the president. We call him, well, some guys call him the governor, because he's good at what he does. But, this angler group basically talks to all the anglers, and then we pretty much voice whatever we heard and give that to the league. So that's pretty much how that works on little changes, big changes such as this. This all went through the angler board, and I guess I kind of got thrown on the angler board, but there's like 6, 7 of us. And like I said, it changes. If guys don't want to do it anymore, we can have a couple new people step up. And it's just important. I feel like it's really cool because, if it's like a rule change or if it's a something like this, a format change, we have to go through our angler board and vet through everything. And also the payouts is something that they've been working on this year. Actually entry fees, not payouts. And they've been working on a little system there to change that up a little bit for our entry fees. We're not paying as much upfront as we have been. So just little things like that too. It's just every year I think it's a step in the right direction.
Good stuff. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I want you to ditch the earpods. There's just like a slight scratch every 20 seconds, and it's driving me nuts, so I know it's driving the listeners nuts, but I mean, other than that, it's like flawless. Your voice is sounding very baritone, very crisp. But we're going to take a quick break, ditch those, and then we'll be back. Jordan Lee, when we come back, I want to talk about how receptive MLF was to this, and then how you guys came up with the current format that was just released, where you keep the every fish counts in the general tire team events and in the heavy hitters events while going back to the 5 fish. There's also some changes in that format that I think had to have been angler driven as far as carryover weights from the elimination or knockout round to the final round. So now there's a 2-day deal there. And then some of the changes with 40 anglers fishing one day, 40 anglers fishing the next. Does that change anything with the 5 fish as far as fairness and equality? We'll dive into the rest of it. It is BTL on a Wednesday with Jordan Lee live from Alabama. We'll be right back after this.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
All right, we're back, BTL. You still hear me? Jordan? Because sometimes Jordan can't hear, and then when you change the audio, you might have to get out and then get back into the system.
It's really scratchy, but
It's scratchy. Can you hear me though?
I'm gonna go back maybe to the AirPods.
All right, go back to the AirPods, and then it maybe won't be as scratchy. That's the beauty of live shows with podcasting.
Hold on.
All right, now we go vertical with Jordan as he goes back to the AirPods. All right, he's got the left one in. How about that? Is that better then? Better.
Is it? Yeah. If you tell me if it goes bad again, it has a bug or something. I'm sorry.
Your phone has a bug in it. No, you're good right there, and the scratch is gone. So I think we've, through the miracles of modern technology, have fixed the issue.
I just put one in, so I just did half. That was the best logic I could come up with.
No, that's perfect. I was saying the other day, like we had a tornado watch that just popped up out of nowhere, and I had Josh Bertrand on Monday, and like the whole block lost power momentarily. And I'd forgotten to tell Josh, like, hey, if we go down, you're still on. Like a pro, dude. He just like kept rolling with it. Couldn't even tell that I was missing. He just took over the show. It's fantastic. Yeah. All right, let's get back into some of this format. So you talked about you kind of went to MLF. Who did you go? Like, who do you go to at MLF for that? Like, you have the angler panel. You guys have been talking about it. You just like call up Boyd or Gary, or who do you call up and just be like, hey, we've been tossing some ideas around and want to run this by you.
Yeah, we talked. The first initial call was Boyd and Kathy, then Kathy Fennell, and talk with them, and really just Boyd. Primarily, when we have an angler call, we talk to him mainly, and Boyd, and they're really professional about everything, and just trying to see, what's the best workplace for the anglers and for the fans, and what makes the most sense. But yeah, that's who we talk to.
Okay, and then it just kind of goes through a system where you guys sit down, you work back and forth. You say, hey, 70% of us want this. This is what we're seeing from the polls of the fan. They work back and forth, try to go through logistics as far as, because you also still have to have the product on TV. That changes things, a cumulative weight. There's a bunch of different changes that it has to. You can't just say, hey, we're going to go back to 5 and change. I mean, this is something that there's been a lot of promoting of the Every Fish Counts. A massive format change, a ton of interviews of guys on the record talking about how it changes, a lot of changing in styles of angling for guys over the last 4 years who have been doing this. And now it goes back to the 5 fish. I mean, dude, it's been a minute since you've been in a 5 fish derby, Jordan.
Yeah, in a big national tournament, for sure. I fished some, obviously, 5 fish tournaments, but yeah, I mean, for a national tournament, I mean, this is a big change, and I feel like, Major League Fishing as a whole, this is something that they promoted, was the Every Fish Counts, and a lot of people like to watch the Every Fish Counts. I feel like, from my standpoint, I can't really speak for every angler, because I said there's a lot of guys that have different opinions on this. And I mean, if you get 70 guys, I mean, you're going to have definitely a mix of, a mix of opinions on what is the best. I don't think there is a best. I don't think there is a right. I just feel like, and we talked about all these different scenarios, like, Major League Fishing now, at the beginning, they didn't own FLW, right? So they were their own standstill company. When they merged, they got the BFLs, the Toyota Series, the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, and they got all these different levels of fishing, and they are all 5 fish. And so once you get to the top, then you have to change. From my personal viewpoint, I really thought, and a lot of other anglers too, that if we make this 5 fish across the board, I feel like it gives those guys, not really something to they know what to expect when they get there. I think when it was a standstill product, that's when it was probably the format was its strongest, because it was something totally different, and they did, there wasn't really like a end goal of how you got there. Now there actually is. You qualify up through the ranks, and it just makes sense as a whole organization just to keep that across the board. And hey, for some of these television shows like the new team series and the heavy hitters, we're going to keep it the same, and it offers a little mix up too. And so, yeah, I don't feel like from my standpoint and from a lot of the angler standpoints, we're really, it's not like we're worried about, oh man, it's 5 fish now. I got to completely change how I fish. Like it's really hard to explain, but there's really not a huge adjustment. Got to figure out the bite every week. So
here's how I feel where it kind of came to the forefront. And obviously I don't think there's anyone, I'm sure there are people, but if you watch the Elite Series live, you watch the BPT live, you might have a preference one over the other. But if you're a fan of professional bass fishing, you're a fan of professional bass fishing. Fair assessment.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you talk about relatability. And I think it kind of came to the forefront this year where you had a number of tournaments, the Bussy Break, Lake Fork, Cayuga, where you had really outstanding 5 fish limits. It hadn't been under a 5 fish format. And I think that the relatability of 9 fish for 42 pounds was not the same as 5 fish for 28 pounds. So I think this year it really came to where you start looking at some guys, and I've talked with a couple guys. I think I've talked with you about this, where you're like, dude, if we were in 5 fish, everyone would be like, holy cow. Like, look at this. Look at their averaging 5-6 pounds on smallmouth, on largemouth. It's crazy, but it kind of gets lost in translation because so many of the guys hadn't fished the Every Fish Counts. It's just like, oh, Jordan Lee caught 42 pounds today. Good for him. But you're sitting there going, dude, I had a 28-pound bag today in my best 5.
Yeah, it's hard to relate to, and I feel like a lot of the clout in bass fishing is lost in our format, because I mean, you go out, you catch 5 for 40, and no one cares. I mean, they just don't know. It's hard. It's just hard to look at on the score tracker, and that's what as bass fishermen, that's what we relate to. And nobody can play our game, the game we had. I feel like if they could, they would understand what maybe 100-pound day is. But yeah, you just lose. When you look at it, you just don't know what it means. So that was definitely a thing that the anglers have felt, and whether they want to admit it or not. I mean, I'll admit it. I mean, it was. I mean, it is kind of frustrating because you just don't. Whereas before, you have a really good day on the water, really impressive day. You expect a couple people around you to maybe pat you on the back. Hey man, good day. Anytime you catch 25 to 27 pounds or whatever, it's a pretty good day. I mean, so that was kind of lost, but I'm excited. I'm excited for that part. Not to have people pat you on the back, but just to look at it and be like, oh, man, he had a really amazing day on the water. Good for him. And that'll be fun. I think the live scoring aspect of it, too, should be really interesting because there's not – I don't think there's ever been I don't know. I don't think there's ever been a tournament where, like a national tournament, where it's like this, where where you're sitting with 5 fish. So, it should be really interesting because, it's gonna make you, just like before with the score tracker, make you fish off that a little bit different, and that should cause for some excitement. I would definitely see. I mean, I definitely would think that would cause for more excitement than not.
Okay, so Elite Series wise, they don't know where they're standing. That's traditionally how it's been. You don't know. Let's say you're contending for the lead, but you don't know if a half-pound cull is going to be what puts you over the edge and wins the tournament, or if you need to cull up 3 pounds. So the knock on Major League Fishing has been there's been no need to target those bigger fish, tie on a 190 whopper or Chapo or whatever and try to get one bite, pick up the glide bait, go with the 12-inch worm. I will venture to say, the more I've mulled over this for the past 24 hours, that this format, and knowing that you have 5 fish, or you're on that final day and you need a 5-pounder to cull up 3 pounds. And if you do that, then there's less likely that someone else is going to be able to jump you. You will be fishing specifically for 5 to 7 pound fish with one bite. So you will see the guys going, I need a 5-pounder. A 4-pounder doesn't do me any good. A 5-pounder, I'm in the lead. So I think with that format, you will see more excitement, more big baits, more risk taking, more off the wall stuff than you've ever seen before. Because, when you don't know it, you're playing your bets. You don't know if that guy's got 12 pounds today or 17 pounds. So you're just trying to clunk work. You fished that way for a long time, very successfully on the Elite Series and collegiately growing up. But like that to me is exciting, knowing that, hey, Jordan knows he's got to catch a 5.2.
Absolutely. I'm that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited for that. All these guys, whether if you fish at the top level, if you fish on the Bassmaster Elite Series or you fish the Bass Pro Tour, these guys are trained assassins when it comes to catching big fish. And a lot of them, they have a knack. They have something about them that they just know how to target bigger than average fish. That's why they're professional fishermen. Whether it was back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, through the 2000s, that's where it always has been. I mean, and to catch a limit of them, not just one, not just two, but catch bigger than average size fish. That's something that we still do. It's just not is you just hadn't been able to see it the last 4 years. Now, like you said, going forward. I feel like on the final day, and the final day, there's 10 guys on the water. The weights could be whatever, but where you're at all times, and knowing that you need to target those bigger than average size fish. It may not be as fast and furious as it was before. You may not go to certain groups of fish or, target those groups as more as you will, hunting those big ones. And that's something that I love to do. I know there's been a couple times through our events where I'm like, man, I just want to go catch, one or two bigger than our, one or two big ones, just try to. I think I can, but I can't risk leaving, this group of fish. And I think it opens up so much more where we can go to different lakes that, traditionally in our format would not be great lakes to go to because, spotted bass lakes are really tough. Like Norman this year. There would be a lot of fish catches under as many as you can catch, but now it's going to open up so many more scenarios where, guys can target, those big largemouth, which I don't think there's as many of them, but there's just a lot of different things that I'm excited about. But you're right. I mean, the score tracker, That final day should be interesting. How that's going to work.
The other thing that I had an issue with it was the guys going, well, you're never out of it with the every fish counts format. You can always go on a run. You can make up 20 pounds. You can make up 18, whatever. And I would like to point people to March 24th through 26, 2007 on one Lake Conroe in Houston, Texas, where after day 2 of the Bassmaster Classic, the leading weight was 43 pounds, 4 ounces, and there was an angler in 15th place who had 29 pounds, 6 ounces. That angler in 15th was about 15 pounds back, and all he had to do, he could only catch 5 fish. He was 15 pounds back with 8 hours left to fit. You remember that tournament, Jordan?
Yeah, I forgot who won it, but I remember that.
So then on the final day, that angler came out and won the tournament. Had a 27-pound 4-ounce limit and won by. That was you. You came back from a 15-pound deficit. We've seen Randy Howell. Dude. That's a 5-fish limit that you made up a 15-pound deficit. And I would venture to say there will be more of that, like we just talked about, with knowing what the other scores are. But I don't think that was valid. Like, you're never out of it. Yeah, there's going to be events where there's a lot of big fish caught, and if you just suck and barely make it, like, it's hard to, like a Champlain or something like that, where you really don't have a lot of bigger, than average fish to make up massive deficits. But dude, like Randy Howell's classic, your classic. There's a number of anglers that have come over the last couple of years in the Elite Series who have come from 9th, 10th place back on the final day to win events.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's a valid. I think everyone's still in it, with the exception of certain venues. But then there's also events like, dude, if you're in a Major League Baseball game, you get out to a 17-1 run lead. Yeah, there's going to be guys who run away with it. And there were a lot of guys who ran away with it in the every fish counts format, more so than I thought there would be over the last 4 years.
Yeah, for sure. I've been a little surprised, but not really. Especially in these smallmouth tournaments where you can really get on a school and just wreak havoc. Some guys do. I don't do that usually, but I feel like it's not. It's hey, at the end of the day, it's bass fishing, right? We're there's going to be, like you said, there's going to be tournaments where it's going to be a close race. People are going to be biting their nails at the end, and there's going to be tournaments where, hey, a guy blows it away. But how they have this structured now, and this is something too that the anglers talk through. Hey, what makes the most sense? Because they do run a 6-day event. That's been one thing that's came up, and I don't like the 6 days. Make it 4 days. Well, we wish we could be 4 days too, but that's just not how it works right now. The 6 days is really important to Major League Fishing, and the live stream, having more days of competition brings more revenue for them. And as anglers, you just have to understand that, hey, look, they're trying to run a company too, just like anybody is. So if this is what makes them, revenue, this is what we're going to stick with. So what's the best scenario under this 6 day? And had a few anglers, Gerald Spoyer, I think he was really involved in all this as well. But he came up with the idea of, hey, let's just make it like two-day tournaments where the winner does not advance, because if the winner advances, that would not work in this, because the weights, we're not going to zero the weights. So we're just going to do two-day tournaments. It zeros halfway through. Days 3 and 4, which is the knockout round, the championship round, are combined, and we'll see how it goes. It may not be the best, but I think it's going to work. I honestly do. I think it's really, the best case scenario for that.
Yeah, so just to run through it real quick. So if you either fish days 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, you take your best 5 from days 1, If you fish 1 and 3, you take your best 5 from day 1, your best 5 from day 3, your 10 fish total weight. If you're in the top 20, you move on with the top 20 from days 2 and 4. Then it becomes a 40 angler 2-day wait. Your best 5 from the semifinal round, and then your best 5 from the championship round. I'm curious personally. It is a change, and this is something that I've talked about. Like what group you're in, who's in your group. Like I remember I've looked up north and I've been like, dang, there's like 7 smallmouth gurus in group A and there's like 3 in group B. Is that kind of luck of the draw, or if you get a windy overcast day on day 1 and that's how you'd been catching them, but then you have day 2, or if there's popular areas that the guys on day 1 smash, like I understand that there's no perfect system there, but as an angler, does that bother you at all that, it's kind of luck of the draw as far as weather and what group you're in and how they're going to bite? Or to me, like that would bug the heck out of me. Like if I had to be like on the St. Lawrence and I'm like, what the heck? I'm in the group with Lucas and Bertrand and Ayler and Cody Meyer. Like that's not fair. Like I want to be fishing against like the guys who don't know how to catch a smallmouth.
Me.
Oh, you know how to catch a small. You're like angler of the year.
No, dude. Yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. It doesn't. So maybe the first year it may have had bothered guys, but now it's been so normalized that we understand that, hey, there's going to be some tournaments where, the weather that you want, you really want that south wind. It's not going to happen. But it all kind of works out through a course of a year. And the weights are generally pretty close. The guys on day 1 usually just absolutely trash them. And, by the 4th day, it gets a little tougher. And then, hey, guess what? Days 5 and 6 are really tough. So it does change throughout an event. You can see it on the water. You can see that the fish get pressured, even with just 40, with 40 boats. It's insane. But it all works out on that aspect of it as far as having an advantage fishing one day or the next. You don't really have one.
I feel like MLF is. Sorry about that. I feel like MLF has taken a lot of flack for, they're just doing whatever they want. But if you look back at the history over the last 4 years, they really have kind of changed, molded, and listened to the anglers. Whether it's changing the minimum weight.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the schedule, whether it's going to this 5 fish here, whether it's payouts. I mean, they've been very open to change in some aspects, at least from my perspective. Is that the way you kind of feel too?
I really do. Yeah. MLF, they do get a lot of, they do get a lot of hate for different things just because they're the easy target, they've changed a lot in the sport. They have some great people that are in the company that get a lot of bad flack, which is unfortunate because they really do care about, hey, making this work. I personally would not want to run a tournament organization.
Oh, heck no.
So if you want to, if you call me and say, hey man, do you want to go in on this to start up this tournament? I'd be like negative because it's just hard, man. It's changed so much, and they have done a good job of listening to us, and I think it speaks volume from an angler standpoint, and so like I said, some guys may not be super excited about this change that are fishing our league, but from a majority standpoint, they look at that and they're open to change. And hey, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. See if this is the if so with the ratings, I mean, the proof's going to be in the pudding. So
I find it interesting that a lot of the old guard that I've talked to, I just did a media event, was talking to Mark Davis about it, and it seems like a lot of the old guard, who you'd think would be the guys that are stuck in their ways, this is how it's going to be, I wake up at 5:54 every morning and they're more open, in my experience of talking, to the different formats and the more fish and all that. And I couldn't figure out why. And I talked to Mark Davis. He's like, well, when I started, it was like 7 fish. And before that, it was, 9. And then it was 15 fish. And as state regulations went down, that's why it ended up setting at 5. You're a generation after me. But even, my generation and the generation right before me, we just remember 5. So that was it. So it's like always been 5. You talk to those guys that are 50, 60, 70 years old and older. I remember Rick Clunn once talking about, after an Elite Series weigh-in, how, hey, you think these older guys out here stink? No, they were dominant in 7, 9, and 15 fish limits, and it's just kind of changed to go down, and they didn't adapt their fishing. But it was interesting to me that the older guys who had been through a lot of different format changes and more fish have seemed to be more open to the every fish counts format or more than 5.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that
hey,
too?
Look, I had a great time. I mean, I've had some special days in the water, and it has been fun under certain scenarios where, like at Mille Lacs, and this is fresh on my mind. I pulled up to a place, I had nothing to go off of. I didn't have a good practice, and I just found a fresh place during the first day of the tournament, and started just absolutely whacking them. Every cast on a tube, on a spinning rod, on straight fluorocarbon, and I'm catching them every throw, and they're 3 to 3.5 pounders. They wouldn't have done anything for me in a 5-fish tournament there, but I was catching them every cast. I caught them every cast for like 30 minutes, and I got to just keep catching them, and it was fun. It was fun for me as a bass fisherman. I mean, who doesn't want to, catch him? But you would have got killed in a 5-fish tournament. But so there's times like that where, hey, that's enjoyable for me on the water. But I don't really care about that as much as I do about the tournament fans and the organization as a whole. Hey, everything is under this 5-fish umbrella. If everything was under as many fish as you can catch, I would say, hey, let's stay the same. And if a lot of people in the United States could fish this format, I would be open to keeping it. But the reality is that a lot of people can't play our game, and that's probably the toughest part about it. And until that happens, I feel like it should stay this way. And it is a fun format to fish, and just not a lot of people can enjoy it. And really understand it because they can't compete in it. I think that's the biggest hurdle, Yeah.
It's a fun format to fish if you're Jordan Lee and you happen to just be able to go out on the lake and just use your spidey sense and catch them.
Not all
I've
the
been
time
in the
does it
boat
work
with
like
you.
that,
You're always just like, oh, let's mosey over here and just pick something out of the Oh, there's a 4. It's crazy, man.
It don't always happen like that, but at times it does. Those were the moments that are highlighted, obviously. But
yeah,
I have tough days too, Matt.
I know. All right, here's what I want to do if you're good for. I want to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask you a couple tough questions. I want to ask you about your thoughts on the health of the BPT and Major League Fishing. And all the talk in the offseason the last couple of years is who's staying, who's leaving. I want to get your thoughts on that. If the people in the industry read too much, not enough.
You want to
into
get all
that.
the nitty gritty.
I want to get into the nitty gritty of that. If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to answer it. I understand, but I'll ask it anyway. And then I also want to get into what you do during the off season. And then we also just saw 21-year-old Tristan McCormick win the Open. He made the top 10 here. We've got John Garrett, a bunch more college anglers that are coming up. I want you to put your college hat on and look at these young 19 to 22-year-olds that are doing incredible things out there. And if you see a common thread that you can relate to them as to how they are whipping everyone's butt who have years and years and years and years of more experience, because you did that at Auburn for a number of years and jumped right into it. So BTL on a Wednesday with Jordan Lee, talking all sorts of different things. We will be back after our final break right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, welcome back. BTL on a Wednesday with Jordan Lee. Talking about the changes in the format, going to the 5 fish for the majority of the BPT season in 2023. And I think I want to ask you some stuff that I probably wouldn't ask you 4 or 5 years ago. Because, dude, you've always just been like, man, I don't care. I just want to go out and just catch fish and leave me alone and just kind of do my thing. But you're like you're Angler of the Year, you're 2-time Classic champ. Do you feel like some responsibility now with, as long as you've been in the industry and your accomplishment, do you sense that people kind of look for you and come to you for stuff that you're no longer just a really talented kid out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that, as a whole, in the whole, I guess, fishing world, but really Major League Fishing now, the Bass Pro Tour, that, a lot of guys do respect me, on and off the water. And I've always really tried to, I try to go that way where get along with everybody. And people, I think, respect what I have to say, and I respect what they have to say, and respect them on the water and off the water. So, I feel like, people do, different anglers do come to me for, just different things. And I'm passionate about the sport. I feel like I became more passionate about it. The first couple of years, not really. I was trying to find my way, but probably at the tail end of the elites and starting this, since we've been in Major League Fishing, that I've really took that to heart.
What do you think the best decision you've ever made in your career is? On or off the water since you started?
On and off the water.
Fishing related or personal life.
Fishing
I don't
related?
care, but primarily fishing related. I mean, it couldn't just be like, oh, I bought this house with a low interest rate. I'm talking about something like fishing.
The best fishing move that I ever made was probably at the Classic at Hartwell. I ran down to, I was running new water that final day, and I ran down to this pocket that I hadn't been in, but I was just kind of looking at my map, and I was like, man, I hadn't been in here. This looks kind of juicy. Let's just run in here and, I don't know, see if we can catch anything. And I run down there, and it just set up good. And, I went down this entire pocket, and there was fish under every dock. I caught enough to win the tournament. So that was probably the best move on the water I've ever made. And it was little luck, but that's the one that comes to mind, I guess.
All right. There's been a lot of changes since the beginning of the BPT. You see guys that are like Jason Christie, Polinick, Swindle. You can't ignore that, right? Like those are top level tier guys that are leaving. There's a lot of scuttlebutt about who's fishing all 9 opens this year, and this guy's in and this guy's not, and this guy wants to be in but he might not be out, and this guy's scared to leave, this guy's 100% all in, this guy's fishing both till he figures out which one he's better at. How would you deem is that healthy? Because like I said, I've talked to veterans before too, and they're like, dude, this is the same thing that happened with FLW back in the day, and different sponsors were pulling guys in different direction. You had classic champs going to FLW, you had FLW guys going to the invitationals. Are we reading, as fans, as media people in the sport, are we reading too much into the movement that is happening, or what's going on, Jordan?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're wanting to know, hey, there's been so many guys leave the Bass Pro Tour. I don't know how many guys it is now, but there has been guys leave the Bass Pro Tour to go jump in the opens to fish the elites, and that's their decision. And hey, it's worked out, for a lot of them. And I feel like as anglers, as a whole, we all pay entry fees, right? We pay Bassmaster, we pay MLF. I feel like whatever that angler feels like is the best for him and his future and his family, that's what he needs to do. And it is more complicated than say, hey, I'm just going to go fish the opens, because some guys do have, those sponsors that have stuck with them, and that some may want them to go that route. They may see the benefit on that side. Some of them don't care. And some anglers maybe they're at totally different points in their career too. I mean, and they may want to, spend their time where they feel comfortable, or where they maybe in hindsight, maybe they just see where it's just a better place to fish. They have more upside to fishing, Bassmaster. So, I mean, look, you're going to have new guys come in. You're going to have guys leave. This is just how the sport is. That's how any professional sport is. But I feel like in our sport, you do have anglers. You obviously can fish a lot longer. So you're going to have guys stick around, but you're going to have people retire. New fresh guys are going to come in, and they're going to take their place, and they're going to start their journey as tournament anglers. And I just feel like it's just going to keep happening over time. The next 20 years, you're just going to see new anglers come up. You're already seeing it now. So yeah, I feel like it's a little hopped up, in my opinion, because it's just there's so many tournaments now compared to when I started, and it's totally different. It's changed 180 degrees in 8 years.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just a different time in our sport. And I feel like, yeah, there's not, there's not a lot to that. The Bass Pro Tour, MLF, you always hear people just talk and comment on whatever. They're going under or whatever.
Why do you think people talk and comment about that? I've never asked anybody. Like, I've never asked anyone who fishes it. Why do you think that talk exists?
I guess because they change. They're open to change, maybe. And I guess that's why, because they feel like maybe if they change, then something bad's going on. Something's going wrong when it may not be that all. There's the finances of running a tournament organization. This is what I've learned too after talking with Boyd and whatever. The finances of running a tournament organization, it's really a nightmare. It's a nightmare for any of them, because it just is. It's just the nature of it. And they want to be profitable. There's only certain ways to get to that, right? And I guess my point is that I guess the public sees the change is more of a negative sense, where they think that they need to change something drastically, or this is not going to work, when that's not the case at all. I feel like these two organizations are going to be around. Bassmaster and Major League Fishing now.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be around. They're not just going to just suddenly just disappear.
One of the things when the
Major League Fishing's not just going to suddenly disappear.
No, I hear you. One of the things when the BPT and Major League Fishing started, they bought it from FLW. It's kind of what we had seen with FLW back when Irwin went Walmart with it. And you had Denny Brower, David Walker. You had end caps at Walmart. You saw the same thing when ESPN bought Bass, and they went with G-Man's Garage and live coverage from the Classic and the ESPN outdoor blocks. And I think you saw it when MLF started. And the key phrase was the soccer mom crowd. And that was what the Every Fish was going to encapsulate, and it was going to be out on, you had Discovery Channel, all these platforms, the hundreds of hours. It was going to get out into non-traditional households, and with the format was going to capture the outside, and it was the whole growing the sport catchphrase, the making it, kind of like what bull riding has done, and kind of a phenomenon thing. And we've seen it happen about every 10 to 15 years where they try it in the sport. This seems more like kind of going back and taking care of the grassroots guys, the fans, the hardcore fans, going back to the 5 fish. Do you think in your lifetime you will ever see tournament fishing truly explode onto the national stage where it is a household thing? Or is this thing a pie? It's always been a pie. It'll always be a pie. And the best solution is to make the best pie that you can, instead of trying to make a giant pie with not much filling in it.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, from what I've seen, just in the short time I've been in it, I feel like the latter of the two, what you just said, and where, they tried something different, trying to get it in, like you said, the non-traditional households. And fishing as a whole it's just a niche sport. I don't know in my lifetime if I'm going to see it become like golf. It's just different. It's a different playing field. We catch fish. It's not it's different all across the country. I just don't see it becoming a national, where it just one day just suddenly pops up on everybody's TV and they're like, oh, we're going to watch fishing.
Where you can't go to the grocery store without being mobbed.
Yeah. You're signing autographs at Walmart and you got a line. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, obviously I wish it would, because that means it's going to, Well, I say I wish I would. I mean, I guess it would bring more money into the sport. That's really about it. I think there's already too many guys that fish professionally. That's hard to get past. I think that's hurt overall. Guys' pocketbooks, but yeah, I just don't see it becoming to that level. Where it's like that. And like you said, man, Bassmaster has done different things. ESPN, I thought it was awesome. A lot of people, I guess, didn't think it was awesome because you got canned pretty quick.
Oh, I loved it.
I did
was
too. I
obsessed
remember
with that.
turning on the TV. Yeah, I remember turning on the TV when I was younger and just, I forgot what it was called. It was with Velvic and I don't know. They had
Bass Center.
Bass Zone.
Bass Center with Kumar.
Yeah, Bass Center. Kumar. I loved it all. Like I loved all of that, but from a national standpoint, it's not something everybody can really get into. So I think you really have to. The fishing. Hey, look, it's grown a lot. Tournament fishing has grown a lot. So I feel like the pie is bigger in our sport compared to 10, 15 years ago. There's more people buying bass boats, this, that, and the other. So, hey, look, I feel like we need to, focus on our hardcore audience maybe a little bit more and add the entertainment side of it. And I really thought this would be the best case scenario for them. And that's why I am truly excited about next year.
Good stuff. All right. Before I let you go, and I appreciate the hour that you've been on. You always bring it both times. I think you were like one of the first. I think were you the first show or second or third show that I did by myself after Jeffrey's retired? That was one of the best shows of the year. That was phenomenal. When you were showing like the hair jigs and all the baits you'd won and all that. But
yeah, you like that.
I did. I'm a bait junkie like that. But like I said, I mentioned Tristan McCormick. You look at the collegiate guys. Go ahead and throw like Dakota Ebear in there. Well, let's just like look at the top 10. You had like Burge, Dakota Ebear in the top. On the Elite Series, it's the same things in the Opens and the Toyotas. You look around and it's like so many of these collegiate anglers in their young 20s seem like they're coming out incredibly prepared now. Like the learning curve is massively shortened. You were, I think, I wouldn't call you the pioneer like generation. I would put like maybe like Brandon Card and that kind of group in it, like that first kind of early that came out that had the serious college fishing. But you're still like the flagship college dude, man. Like when people point to, hey, look what collegiate fishing can do. Do you keep up with it now? Where do you think collegiate fishing is, and what is it that all these kids that are 19 to 23 have in common that allow them to compete at such a high level so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, definitely hats off to those guys. They've done an incredible job. I think you see it every year to an extent. You see some guys obviously rise to the top because they may have that factor, and they put a lot of time in. The biggest thing that I've noticed now, I guess, is to separate yourself now from the rest of the crowd. Your electronics, you have to be extremely good with those, and they've had I had a lot of time on my hands when I was 21, 22 years old, right out of college. All I was doing was fishing. I didn't have any really responsibilities, and I took advantage of that. I took advantage of spending a lot of time on the water, getting good, which was back then getting good with, side scan, just getting ahead of the curve on everything. And you're seeing that now with a lot of these college anglers where they don't have, just like me, I didn't have a ton of responsibilities. I mean, I was winning some tournaments fishing and fishing all the opens, and just got to go to all these different lakes. And man, that's what it's about. When you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, how can I better myself today? Or yeah, I'll just go to the lake right now and go live scope 3 days straight or whatever. And you become really proficient with it, and that's what I'm seeing now with guys like Tristan and John Garrett, like you mentioned those guys, Cole Floyd,
yeah, Cody Huff.
They just Cody Huff. They just they get it. They understand the tournament scene. They went up through college, and they're noticing the changes in it and how to have that advantage on the water. That's what it's all about, is having that advantage. And I feel like I've lost that touch a little bit. But I do have the more experience now. But the young guys that are coming up are going to continue to, show that they have it. I mean, age is just a number in our sport, and the time on the water is super, super important.
That's good stuff. Anything you got coming up in the off season that you want to talk about, that you want to plug? Any new stuff that you're working on, or is it hang out with the family and go crappie fishing every now and then for the next couple months?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change for me now is having a son, and that's having a family, man. Nobody really tells you, but it is the best thing that I've ever done in my personal life. Is Baker is his name, but he's special to me, and I try to be there, every step along the way. Spend a lot of time with him, help my wife out, and that's important, just as important to me as it is, my career, my job. So I've been doing that a lot here lately, and when I can fish or when I feel like it's a good time to, I'll go out to the lake and do that as well. But just taking care around the house. If you have a good home life, I feel like that transfers over to, for me at least, it does, to fishing. And got a lot of support around here, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Going to fish a little bit the off season, and just get ready for next year too. I mean, it comes quick, so yeah, just going to be doing that. So nothing crazy exciting.
Pretty banger schedule for next year too. Kissimmee Chain, Cherokee, Murray, go back to Caney Creek, then Gunnersville, Cayuga, St. Clair, and Saginaw Bay. I mean, there really isn't a grinder on that schedule at all. It's like either big smallmouth, big spots, or big largemouth.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. I'm going to do probably a little bit more pre-practicing too this year. I've only pre-practiced one tournament in 4 years, and that was at Caney Creek and Darbone. I never went to Bussy Break until the final day, but I did pre-practice that one. This year, I think I'm going to go look at, look at some different lakes, see what's changed and all that. And I feel like that is something that I think I personally used to not think that helped. But after seeing the guys who were dominating our tour, I realized that it does help. And I feel like too, that's with the 2 days of practice we have. The 2 days of practice, you have one bad weather day that cuts you down to 1 day of practice, and you can't really find a whole lot in 1 day. So knowing the lay of the land, it helps. But yeah, I'm going to go to a couple of these places and a couple of these lakes, and yeah, the schedule is really good. It's going to take some weight, and should be fun.
All right, Jordan Lee, thank you very much for the time on BTL. Much appreciated. And take care. Have fun with the kid.
All right, buddy. Man, be good.
Will do. See ya. All right, that was Jordan Lee. Much appreciated, candor. And I don't even think like 3 years ago he would have done that interview. Just a different perspective, a lot more maturity for Jordan Lee. You have to remember, like, this is kind of like really, he's been kind of the anointed one since his days at Auburn, and then he came right into it and has been dominant. And then obviously the back-to-back Bassmaster Classics, and just so calm and cool. But he really wasn't ever big into, I don't want to call it like politics, but he wasn't really big into the business side of it, and definitely has gotten a lot more involved, a lot more opinionated, and cares a lot more about the sport, the direction that it's going in, making sure that it's going in the direction that he thinks is positive. And there's a lot of those young guys, those late 20s to early 30 guys, like the kind of that whole next group, like that group after like the Skeets and the Edwins and Deans and Kevins. I mean, those guys are late 40s, early 50s, some of them. And, you know, Jordan and Justin Lucas and Brandon Polinick and a bunch of those guys. I mean, that's like it's crazy. They've been around for like 12, 13 years. All right, we're going to take a final break. When we come back, some final thoughts about what was said today, what we have going on the rest of the week, and then a very cool in-studio guest for BTL next Monday. It's Wednesday today, October 26th. BTL, we'll be back with the final segment right after this.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
All right, wrapping things up here on BTL. Clay, interesting comment here. He said, hey, I got to say, I'm not sure if that's grammatically correct. He says, I got to say I got respect for MLF guys who come on BTL. They get thrown into the fire and they keep it professional. Dude, Dude, I was just asking questions that I wanted to know, and that is, you try to have the pulse on the industry, and you take into account, what's talked about and what's said. And those are questions that are talked about, and that I wanted to know. And like I said, yeah, Jordan did a great job, and all those guys have done a great job. One of the things I try to do is I try to keep it 50-50. I have a lot of BPT, MLF, Pro Circuit anglers on, as well as Elite Series Open guys. And you have to understand, and Jordan did a great job of pointing this out, MLF, NPFL, BASS, for-profit organizations. They're business. They're just like a grocery store down the road, or Lowe's, or Walmart, or anything you go to. Like, they are trying to produce a product and use the anglers to where the anglers are benefiting from it, and that they are turning a profit through sponsorship, through viewership, through angler membership fee. And it's always going to be a give and take. Like, we just have gone through all this stuff with the opens and trying to get it. And I'm sure Hank and stuff at the opens and those guys are like, man, like, everything we do, we either get smoked on, we go to all 9, and now everyone's complaining that they can't get into the Classic by fishing the 3 divisions. Or if you don't do that, then you have the guys who want the all 9 who are complaining to Bass that, hey, all you have to do is fish 6 days and now you're on the Elite Series. Like, it's a constant delicate balance. And that's why in any sport, especially from the beginning, like, look at, if you go back to like the beginning of the NFL, the NHL, any of these sports, any of the individual sports, it's always an evolution of change. You have to realize a lot of these guys who started in the beginning of that first tournament, 1968, Beaver Lake, the Invitational, the first Classic that Ray Scott put everyone up in the sky, took them to Lake Mead. They had 10 pounds of tackle and 8 rods that they could have. I mean, dude, those guys, a lot of them are still alive. A lot of them can remember that. So this is a young sport, an evolution of the sport, a change of the sport, and a lot of crazy stuff has happened for the last 5 years. I was going back looking for press releases about the Every Fish Counts and what guys were saying about it when the BPT kicked off just 4 years ago with the Every Fish Counts format. And then I forgot, dude, we went through a whole year and a half of COVID years where you had tournaments canceled and tournament chains and weigh-in procedures and changed, and then crowds that they didn't have and crowds that they didn't. And you've got 200 guys that are all individual small business owners, each with a different set of circumstances, a different set of challenges, a different set of strengths. And every single one, regardless of where you are, is jockeying for position to try to be in the best position that they can to support themselves, their family, their businesses back on the side. There's a lot of different angles on it. And I hope it doesn't come off on BTL as negative towards one organization or negative towards another, or asking more questions that I shouldn't. Anyway, I thought Joe did a great job on that, and was open to it. So I was going to take advantage of that. And Clay was talking about more of in the comment section, but yeah, it's been a little weird to me over the years, the pushback that the BPT and MLF gets regardless of what move they make. Right. And that was kind of from the beginning. And I think that they have had to endure some lasting bruises from the mistakes that they made, and somewhat admittedly in some of the press releases and some of the things that they said in the first 3 months after the split. And I think that there's some enduring kind of bad feelings amongst the hardcore bass anglers that they're like, hey, they're trying to diminish bass and the history of all that and start this new thing and tell us that this is better. But like we talked about with Jordan and like I laid out, they've been very open to listening to the anglers, to what they change. Like, it started with the 1 pound and Every Fish Counts, and then they listened and they said, hey, let's go to a variable weight. And then they went to the 2 pounds. Then they went to absolutely no information. You couldn't even talk to anyone else in the tournament. You couldn't look at the front deck of their boats, nothing. And then they listened to their anglers say, hey, this is like, we're having to learn other anglers, like, kids' names and talk to them about life. We want to just be able to talk to them about fishing. We don't want to do any of that. So they loosen that up, and listen to them as far as talking with the other anglers and the information. Now they're listening to them as far as going back to 5 fish and what the majority of people like. They're doing a lot of stuff. I watch both. I like both. I know I got to get Marty Stone on here. He actually, like I said, I've been through a lot of drama with the cell phone over the last couple of weeks. I'm starting to try to get all my stuff back through iCloud after I dropped it in the water at Hartwell. If anybody has like a functional good case, like floating case deal to keep your phone in when you're on the water that's not like a tether or big and bulky, hit me up on Instagram and let me know like what a good phone case, something that I could just like put my phone that's already in the case. See this? Look, I've got it's like a metallic. I need to get a better case for that. But anything that you can do for the case, I'd be greatly appreciated. But anyway, Marty Stone called me. I haven't called him back. I'll call him right back after the show. But he said that he had some stuff that he had some interest in. So we'll get him on and see what he has to say about what's going on. Moving forward, tomorrow we are back live. We are back live with another day 4. Uncle Frank Scalish in live. And then Monday, we have an in-studio guest. One of the most well-received segments on BTL has been utilizing sponsors of the show that allow this show to do, that pay money to keep this thing on the air and on the podcast, to come on and kind of go behind the scenes and explain what it is that they do, how they do it, why they do it, and some of the benefits, some of the challenges of running small companies. We've got Beatdown Outdoors, new sponsor of BTL. I have the Ultimate Shorty on my boat. I actually used it at Hartwell. You can raise it up all the way up to like 33 inches. It helps with your neck and back for forward-facing sonar, even just looking at your 2D up front. A lot of cool different features on that. But the guys from Beatdown, they're in the Ozarks. They're making the drive down to be in studio on Monday to talk about getting into the graph mount game, some of the challenges, some of the very innovative and unique things that they've had. It's not just going to be a, hey, here, buy our graph mounts. I told them, I said, if you're coming in, I want to know the behind the scenes on how to get into this very competitive industry and what you guys have done and going through, all of the red tape and trials and tribulations of bringing one of the coolest and most reliable and innovative graph mounts to the market. So that will be next Monday. Other than that, it feels good to be back in studio for the foreseeable future. So big shout out. We've had a very active message board, live comment section yesterday. A lot of good feedback. If you hadn't had a chance to go back and listen to the Bradley Hallman and John Sukup show, would highly recommend that, talking about going through the open season to make the 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series, and then the process starts all over to get ready for when that season starts in a couple months. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. Thank you to Jordan Lee. We got Uncle Frank tomorrow. We'll see you then. Later.